I'm Pam Blanton, the founder and CEO of Partners for Housing, and is our um, Director of Customer Solutions. So she's gonna take questions out of the chat today. I'm gonna share my screen for a moment. So today's webinar is going to be a combination of a video and some slides, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. Anybody who has questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can during the course of this webinar. I've included on this first slide our contact information. We'll give it to you again near the end. But today we're going to talk about Partners for Housing's solution, about how our benefits and housing review, our roommate matching pool, and our shared living development services help families create family-driven housing solutions for their loved one with IDD. We're going to give you some examples of some shared living homes, and we're going to talk about a coupon for $100 off. We'll talk about it more at the end for anybody who's interested in learning more about that. You can get a discount with that code HOME40. So we're going to start with a video so you can have a fun way of seeing the services that we provide. And so here we go.
Before we started working with Partners for Housing, I didn't feel like there were very many options. I think we thought Troy would be living at home forever.
We just didn't have the direction. Partners for Housing gave us a path forward.
Because I couldn't imagine anything worse than her having lived with us all her life, losing her parents, and then having all of that disrupted. So we really wanted her to move out while we were still alive and while we could support that transition.
When we found Partners for Housing, they immediately stepped in and kind of embraced us as a family.
Families worry about who will care for their loved one when they're no longer able, and about the costs of housing and care. They worry about loneliness and isolation. It can seem impossible to make a realistic, achievable plan for the future.
The biggest worry for a parent is that your child is going to grow up into adulthood and not have community.
Gaining access to the benefits your loved one is eligible for can be very challenging. There are so many government agencies and social service programs. It's hard for families to find the best solution.
It's a complicated system, right? And there's a lot of emotion attached to it as well. So when you're in an emotional state, you're not always at your most rational, or you don't always think clearly, and trying to figure out the systems by yourself you can do it. It's just really difficult and time consuming, and there's a lot of bumps along the way.
Partners for Housing helps families maximize their benefits and create housing solutions that meet the unique needs of their loved ones. The first step is to complete the residential assessment. This assessment will identify gaps in your loved one's benefits and services and help clarify your family's vision for the future.
And when we connected with Partners for Housing and started going through the residential assessment, we discovered layers of services that could be available if we knew how to tap into them.
The residential assessment includes a comprehensive review to ensure your loved one has all the benefits and services that they're eligible for, a follow-up consultation to identify the steps you can take now to prepare for the future, and assistance navigating the application process for Section 8 housing vouchers and other programs.
So Partners for Housing allowed us to know how important Section 8 was, the process of getting into Section 8. Whenever you work with federal and state and county government, it is a bureaucracy.
The residential assessment is an online questionnaire that you can begin today and complete at your own pace.
My first impression of the residential assessment was its absolute thoroughness. It covers so many aspects of my daughter's life. It was inspiring, it gave us courage, it gave us hope, it gave us energy. to take the necessary steps to move through the process.
Partners for Housing offers additional services to help families create a shared living home. Shared living is when people with disabilities live together to share the cost of housing and services. Our roommate matching pool helps you find compatible roommates and like-minded families with similar housing goals. Our shared living development services guides families through the process of realizing their vision of a safe, supported, and resilient housing solution.
We wanted something that we could set up that would repeat itself and be able to be lasting long after we're gone.
My favorite is living with these two and the independence that's given me.
Completing a residential assessment is the first step toward identifying the resources that can make your family's unique housing goals achievable. Partners for Housing will help you with advice, recommendations, and a list of steps that you can take to prepare for the future.
Start early, and in fact, it's never too early to start.
Yeah, start the process now. My wife and I put it off for years and years and years until my wife passed away. You know, it's like they say, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today.
And she's grown in ways we didn't expect and in ways we did expect, and we're just really proud.
When we go out to see our boyfriends, we also see movies, and we would also go bowling.
So I live like 5 minutes away from my parents, so that's really nice actually.
We are actually more engaged with each other living apart. And now when he comes home on weekends, that Beth is off, we play cards, there's much more social interaction between us and Jeremy, which is very delightful.
Visit www.partners4housing.com for more information. Take the first step toward their journey home for you, your loved one, and your entire family.
Are you happy?
Yes.
How well?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna share a few slides before we start taking questions. And then Jamie, if you see questions coming through that relate to the slides, feel free to interrupt and we'll catch the rest of them. There we go. We'll catch the rest of them as we go through. Okay. Here we go. Can you see that, Jamie?
No, not yet.
Okay. I've done something wrong, so bear with me. Now, can you see that? Okay. Okay, so you heard the word residential assessment in that video. You'll also hear the words benefits and housing review. Those are interchangeable. We actually changed the name from residential assessment to the benefits and housing review. We received a large grant in the state of Washington. And when we started serving a bunch of our families in Washington, we recognized a lot of families weren't taking advantage of our services because they were thinking, oh, we're not ready for housing yet. We'll think about that later. But what we really try to do is help families understand the housing options and the benefits that are available while their loved one is still living at home, so they can be ready when they move out. So we changed the name to Benefits and Housing Review. You'll hear me talking about that. I'll try to remember to say Benefits and Housing Review. So when a family completes the assessment and submits it, then we schedule an hour follow-up consultation with them, and we talk about things like housing options. This can be difficult when you're talking to families across multiple states because there is still not a common language across states for what things mean. So I'm going to try to use a description instead of the actual words, so that regardless of what state you're from, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So most states offer these first three types of housing models. A group home, it's also known as a provider-controlled setting. This is typically up to 6 people living in a home that's owned and operated by a caregiver. It can be funded by Medicaid. So the individuals pay for a certain amount of their income toward room and board, and then Medicaid kicks in to pay the difference. That's called a group home. It's a model that's often we think about for our seniors that need to have a more supported living near the end of their life. There's also group home models for younger adults with disabilities. Supported living is another model. It might be called something different in your state, but it's an agency, a controlled setting. So in this model, you'll typically see, 3 or 4 people living in a home that's run by an agency that hires the staff that supports the home. So that's an agency-controlled setting. Companion home, sometimes called adult foster care, is another model you'll see in multiple states. And then there's a lot of creative projects out there of families and organizations that have started unique housing solutions. Shared living is something we help families do. It's a family-driven housing solution. We call it consumer controlled. The families find each other. They may meet on our roommate matching platform and decide to set up a home together, and we offer services to help them do that. We call that shared living.
And I just want to mention that that could be very different state by state. So I think it would be important for people to understand that.
The names and the way the states, what we call them, yes.
Yeah, and supporting living could be consumer driven, and so I think most of the times it could be applicable the same way, but I think it's important to note that it really depends on what state you're in and how people interpret it.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. And it'll be a lot more helpful to speak to a national audience when we have common language. Thank you, Ashley, for following up there. So what we're looking at with our benefits and housing review, we talk about housing options. We make sure everybody's got the Social Security benefits they're eligible for. State support services. So every state has their own Medicaid program. So they have different services that are available. In the state of Washington, we're really good at helping families know how to access state services. When we go into other states, we look for a partner who really understands the Medicaid program in that state so that we can refer families to them. Our secret sauce is really about Section 8 housing subsidies and how families can access Section 8. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more on the next slide. We look at food benefits. We look at remote support technology. There's a lot of new technology that can really support people in their independence. And so we like to talk to families about that. And then we have an online roommate matching pool which is sort of the match.com for families who are looking for compatible roommates and like-minded families to set up a shared living home. Now, we are based out of Washington State, and so most of the people currently in our pool are in Washington State. But through this grant that we just received, we were able to build out our infrastructure, and now we're looking to expand nationally. We do serve families from multiple states. We are actively looking for partners in other states so that we can build the roommate pool in that state so families have more options for finding compatible roommates. So Section 8, real quick, is a hugely valuable subsidy that is very mysterious for families to figure out how to access Section 8 housing choice voucher. So there's 2 types of Section 8. One is a voucher, housing choice voucher, which goes with the individual. Once they get it, they can have it for most of their life currently. The second type is called project-based Section 8, where you can benefit from the subsidy as long as you're living in that particular unit. When a person has a Section 8 voucher, they pay 30% of their income toward rent, and the housing authority pays the rest, up to a limit set by HUD based on your particular geographical area. The biggest thing we hear from most families is, oh, we've been on our Section 8 wait list for 10 years. Our list hasn't opened in 5 years. So what we do is we look at all the housing authorities across the nation, and we keep a current list of all the open Section 8 lists. So you can put your loved one's name on as many lists as you want across the nation. Typically, when you get a voucher in a particular jurisdiction, you need to live there for 1 year before you can transfer it to your local jurisdiction. But if you're a person with a disability, you can request reasonable accommodation to port your voucher immediately. We actually had 27 families get a voucher for their loved one within 1 year following our process. So when a family signs up for our benefits and housing review, they'll have access to our platform, where on our dashboard they can look to find current open Section 8 lists. We show them how to apply for those vouchers. We have links there, and we update that twice a week. So we're able to help families learn how to access Section 8. The beautiful thing about Section 8 is there's a lot of accommodations for people with disabilities. So we've had families can request reasonable accommodation for a live-in caregiver, and the housing authority will then pay the rent for the caregiver as well. So you can start to put together a compensation package for a live-in caregiver that includes housing-related expenses. You also can't typically rent from a relative if you're using a Section 8 voucher, but if you're a person with disabilities, you can request reasonable accommodation to rent from a relative. So you can't rent your bedroom in your family home, but if the family has another unit or wants to purchase a separate unit where they don't live, we can help them request accommodation to rent from a relative. So we show families, we talk to families about that. There's also special loan programs out there for families who are interested in purchasing. So we can talk to them about how to access those programs.
Real quick, Pam, just a question that came in regarding Section 8. Can you apply for a Section 8 voucher in a state in which you do not live?
Yes, you can. So you can apply to as many housing authorities across the nation as you choose. And when your name comes up on the list, we help families request the accommodations they need to port the voucher to their local community. So yes, you can apply to states where you don't live. It's a special accommodation for people with disabilities. Payment standards are based on the area in which you live, and those are set by HUD. Okay, and we do consult with families all over the nation on Section 8. We were really fortunate in the Seattle area. In the late 90s, our housing authority recognized they weren't serving people well. So they invited all the social service systems together and said, basically, if you can help your clients get through the paperwork process, find a unit to rent, and help them be a good tenant for a year, we'll give you vouchers. And I was part of the planning committee for that in the late 90s. And in the first 5 years of 2000, we moved 450 people onto that program from their family home and from supported living programs to help them subsidize. So we learned a lot about what's possible. And we have a really unique experience here at Partners for Housing with Section 8, and we help families all over the nation with that. Shared living. So shared living is a family-driven housing solutions. Families really like this model because it gives them a lot of choice and control. And when I say family, I'm always talking about the individual in the center of that family. So it's a very person-centered housing solution. But then families have choice of location, of caregivers, of roommates. It takes a lot for a family to set it up, but once the home is set up, it's really unique to the individuals who are living there. To date, we've helped families set up 66 shared living homes, serving 134 people with disabilities. We don't go out and find the caregivers and find the housing. We lead families through a series of steps. So they go to our roommate pool, or they might come together with roommates. And we have caregiver agreements. We help set the compensation package for the caregiver. We help with household budgets. We help with the Section 8 process. We have parent commitment agreements, all the things that it takes to set up a home. And we support, once the home is set up and everybody moves in, we have a facilitated review process that we offer for the first 6 months to help the house launch in a really healthy way. And then we're out. Ultimately, the caregiver, the living caregiver, is providing the day-to-day. The parents are providing the oversight. If they need additional help, if their caregiver leaves and they need to bring a new caregiver on, or a roommate leaves and they want to onboard a new roommate, they can come back and we can help them with those steps. Our roommate pool has grown significantly since we received this grant in Washington State. Of course, most of those people are in Washington State. We've also have people in our pool from Arizona, New York, Georgia, Connecticut, Colorado, New Jersey,
California.
I might be missing it too. But in those states, we have, a handful, 1 or 2 roommates in the pool. The goal is, what we're doing now is really trying to grow our pool so that there's more choice. So now that we're done with the grant in the state of Washington, and like I said, we've built out our infrastructure, we're really ready to expand. So if we have any agencies on here that are interested in discussing how we can partner, we'd love to talk to you as well. Oh, I'll just say too, our roommate pool is by invitation only. Families do the benefits and housing review first. Then once we complete our consultation, we invite them into the pool. Most people are invited in. Sometimes there's a better option. Sometimes families aren't ready to come in. They're always able to come back later in the future, 2 or 3 years down the road. If they want to join the pool at that point, they can come back and turn on their profile. We talk to families a lot about starting early. The starting early part is really about thinking about your options and understanding benefits, so you can really dream big and create something that really meets the needs of your family member. Until a lot of times families say to us, before we met, we were in such a place of fear that we could hardly think about it. But now that we understand that there's so much, that there's help out there, and we have ideas about what's possible, we can start dreaming big. And so that's what we want to help families do. So when they say, how long does it take to create a housing solution? We say it can take 2 to 5 years. The benefits and housing review is a simple process. Families go to our website, sign up. Immediately you'll get access to the assessment. Some people sit down and fill it out all at once. Some people really contemplate the questions and start and stop. We hear over and over from families that the questions themselves get them thinking about things they hadn't thought about previously. So the questions are based on, over 30 years of experience. So families think, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. So that can happen on your own time. As soon as families submit, we send them a link to our calendar and to schedule their 1-hour Zoom follow-up consultation. If they go into the pool, if that's their choice, it can take a year or more in the pool. It depends on how long it takes you to find the right roommate. Once you find somebody, we really encourage you to spend a year getting to know each other. Make sure the roommates get to know each other and the families. It's really like a double match of course, the most important is that the roommates are compatible, but it's also very important that the families share vision and values because they're going to work together to set the home up for the individuals that live there. So taking time in that space, typically once people move in to outside of their family home, they're going to have to sign a 1-year lease. So it's just helpful to make sure you really know and that it's a good move. The shared living development process too typically takes about a year. We meet with a group of families, typically once a month. That can, it can take longer, and that's fine. Sometimes if it's just one family that's creating for their loved one and they want to add roommates later, that can go a little bit faster. But we don't want to rush too much in this process because we want to help you create something that's really sustainable long-term. And so taking the time there is important. And then the housing choice voucher, getting a voucher is all of the 66 homes we've helped set up have a Section 8 voucher. I will also say there's plenty of people who have come to our website, found a compatible roommate, and set up their own housing solution. If a person has lower support needs and they don't need a live-in caregiver, then sometimes it's just finding the roommate and then the families working together to get care to come in, 3 days a week to help with some things that they might need. That we don't count those people. We don't even hardly know them unless they come back and say, hey, my roommate moved out. I need to turn my profile on again. So when we talk about the shared living homes, they all have a living caregiver, and all the ones have had Section 8. And so getting that voucher can take some time. It can also go fairly quickly. It just depends on, most housing authorities have a lottery system where they open their wait list for, 3 weeks. They'll get 5,000 applications. They'll put 500 people on their list, something like that. So you could get a good number and have it happen faster. But the reality is the more lists you get on, the sooner your name's going to come up on some list. So for years, we were referring to another website to find open wait lists. And we recently took that on ourselves. So now we have someone on our team and we make it really simple for families.
Pam, while you have the next screen up with all of our contact information, I'm going to start reading some questions. How is Partners for Housing funded?
Okay, so families purchase our services. We also, like I said, we received a large grant from the DD Council in the state of Washington. We were recently funded in the state of Colorado. We're not under contract yet. So we can be funded by grants. We can also be funded by private pay.